Good evening. May I say that I am delighted that that sporting event, whatever it was, is over for the moment, and I can get back to business. Here's Steve with the rundown.
The old man could get free.
Reading, a basic skill most of us take for granted. But to 250,000 British Columbians, it is agony. This school is fighting illiteracy among adults. Tonight, a Webster walkabout at the Invergarry Learning Centre. Also tonight, Keith Davey steps out of the back room and reigns all over Liberal leader John Turner.
Keith Davey's not only taking me on, if that's what he wants to do, he's taking on the Liberal Party.
Senator Davey is in the studio with Webster and meets another adversary.
Charlie. No, I've been waiting to get at this guy.
The Dean of the Ottawa Press Gallery, Charles Lynch, also faces off with the senator and wonders what a way to run a country. Up first with Webster, Senator Keith Davey.
I'm reading a book. There are occasions when I actually read the potboilers turned out by peripatetic journalists and, should I say, fading politicians. But this is one, The Rainmaker. Have a look at The Rainmaker, which we all anticipated. But the trouble it has caused makes many people believe that this is a deliberate conspiracy to destroy the current leader of the Liberal Party, one John Turner. Now, Keith, before you open your mouth, I want to act really as a prosecuting counsel.
Fine.
We're talking about Turner's mistakes. John, this is when he was running the campaign and called the unadvised quick election after he took over from his enemy, Trudeau. Says Keith Davey, John Turner was the horse, but he also wanted to be the jockey. This doesn't work in the political arena. And the same Turner said to Keith, I want you to know who is running this GD campaign. I am, that's who. And of course, Keith Davey does not like John Turner because he called the election at the wrong time, and because most troubling for you of all, Senator Keith Davey, was Turner's determined attempt to discredit Pierre Trudeau for all of his actions and most of his friends. And now you want to bring Trudeau back. It's a great book.
Thank you, Jack.
It's a great political scientist full of lovely little gossipy bits, but it shows the steel in Keith Davey. You want to get rid of Turner.
Where do you want to start? I'm not trying to bring Pierre Trudeau back. That's number one, for openers. One of the worst pieces of journalism I've seen in my time was in Maclean's, the story that suggested that I and some of my friends were trying to bring Pierre Trudeau back. I read the whole article. I didn't know any of the people, Jack, they were talking about. None of them. There's the last paragraph, there was a reference to Chrétien and Don Johnson. I know them both. That thing was made out of whole cloth. It was cheesecloth. Then they come back the second week and they explain it all. It's a dinner party, a private dinner party at David Smith's house when we play a silly little game about who should be what. I am not trying to bring Pierre Trudeau back. I wouldn't do that to the guy.
Now, that's one clear statement you can make. There is no conspiracy. There is no Machiavellian concept.
And I'll make another clear statement. He was the greatest prime minister in Canadian history.
But of course, all these enemies of yours, perhaps, those people who may want to damage the Liberals, take your total admiration for Trudeau and transfer that into total contempt for Turner.
I don't have contempt for John Turner, not for a moment. You've read the book. I say all kinds of positive things about John Turner. I talk about his grace under pressure, the climactic stages of the 1984 campaign. I tell him he can still be the Prime Minister of Canada. I think it's a balanced presentation.
Oh, I'm sure it's a good repertorial presentation from your point of view, but he did accept your advice and didn't use you as the brain, the rainmaker, for the campaign.
Absolutely correct. He said in the course of the leadership, as Chrétien said, no more rainmakers, no more backroom boys. I was delighted. Look, at the end of the when Trudeau resigned, I decided to write the book. I decided I'd never again run another campaign. Jack, look, in this business, you are the new guard. If you have some success, you're the establishment. If you have more success, you're the old guard. You, of all people, know I've gone through that circuit twice. No other Canadian politician has done that. I've run 7 national elections. I don't want to run another campaign. Believe me.
But you were finally called in.
Yes, and
when the campaign was collapsing.
Yeah, I'm a soldier. I was asked to come in, and of course I came in. It's like a party's like an army.
And he said to you, "Can I still win this election?"
Yeah.
And you said at that time.
I think I said it was possible. What am I going to say to my leader you know, I knew we couldn't win. I talked to Goldfarb on the Saturday night. He said we got 30 seats in English Canada. I talked to Lalonde on the weekend. He said we got 15 seats in Quebec. I knew we were going to get our clock clean. I thought we could win a few more than we did. I didn't help very much. We only won 40. But am I going to say to John, look, it's a wipeout, John? Come on.
No, as a matter of fact, you say in the book, when Turner asked you, can I win? And you said, I think you can, but I didn't add that it would take a miracle.
Well, I had everything crossed but my eyes, But I'm sorry, in the middle of a campaign, I'm not going to say to the leader, you're cooked. Come on.
No, but you're not a little bit embarrassed, a little bit shamefaced, like the Maclean's article, like the fact that the first question I want to ask you, and I'm an outsider away in the rainforest on the West Coast, is, do you really want Trudeau back?
Jack, I'm a little bit like you. I'm not easily embarrassed.
Oh,
come on, it's true.
Hey, listen, they tell me, is it going like gangbusters?
Yes, it is. We're into a third printing. Can you believe it?
How many books is that?
Well, I think we're up over 70,000 now, so I'm told. I don't know, but that's what I'm told.
70,000?
I'm terribly pleased.
So you should be, too. 70,000, $2 a book, 140,000 less tax. It'll become, it's fancy money.
Well, it's almost as much as you make.
Now, that's a cheap crack.
That's true, though. Come on, let's get on with it. Come on, get on with the program.
All right, now. I'll change topics a little bit. We're finished with the Turner bit, are we?
Only to say this, that I am not leading a crusade to dump John Turner. I want to make that very clear to you, and you have a lot of viewers in British Columbia and all over the place. I just want to say, I am not trying to be the Dalton camp. All I've said, God, I've said two innocuous things. I've said, number one, I think the vote's going to be close. I still think that. And I've said, number two, Liberals should think it through, and you're not disloyal if you decide to vote against the leader. We have a very special circumstance. We have this review mechanism in our Constitution. If it's disloyal to use it, then let's amend the Constitution. Let's get rid of it. But as long as it's there, then it's your privilege if you're a delegate to use it. That's all I've said.
Oh, I know, but you know what the Turner Liberals expect. They expect total support and no little knives in the back at any time at all from now until the next election.
It's amusing, for 30 years I was in the back room, never said anything publicly, and they always thought I was conspiratorial, cunning, manipulative, this awful, sinister guy. Now I've gone public, and they're still mad at me. What do I do about that, Jack?
Well, you created a very effective image in your other role for the Liberal Party.
Yeah, well, what I'm trying to do, the Liberal Party's been my life. I care passionately about the party. I think it will succeed, and it'll be worth working for only if it's a small L Liberal Party. And that, incidentally, is my judgment, is how the Liberal Party comes back in the West, as a small L Liberal Party.
No point in asking you. No, you're not going to interfere in the leadership any more than you've already done.
Well, I'll be a delegate at the convention. I think because of the brouhaha, it's incumbent upon me to announce what I'm going to do, and I guess I'll do that publicly. I don't like doing it. At the leadership convention, I honestly didn't participate on behalf of anybody. I did vote for John Turner. You were there that day, and I think I told you I was going to vote for John Turner. This situation is one that I'll probably make a statement about, and I think you should understand, but we are voting really whether or not we sustain John's leadership or whether or not we don't. Nothing to do with Chrétien or Trudeau or Lloyd Axworthy or Paul Martin.
In other words, that's the first decision to come.
That's right.
Whether it'll be sustained or not.
I think it's exactly correct.
And you will make your statement on that at the right time at the convention.
Well, I think I'll make it before the convention.
Make it now.
No, I'm not going to make it now because I haven't made up my mind.
Oh.
I can make a case for John. I really can. I can make a case for the review. As far as I'm concerned, the jury's out. And that's what's shocking a lot of Liberals, that I haven't said ready,
yeah.
but I don't think I can.
It just gives, if one were a Liberal, one can see how it gives such aid and comfort to the Tory government, which is in such a terrible mess.
Well, you see, I don't think that that's the case.
You don't think
that's the case. Well, I'd have to convince myself that. I just wonder if maybe the Tories aren't just kind of hoping that John stays on. I don't know. That's one of the things I'm trying to ponder.
I've got to think that out. When you say that, you hope the Tories hope that John stay on, that means that the Mulroney's boy, Dalton Camp, that magnificent backroom boy, thinks it's easier to beat Turner than anybody else.
I don't know that. I wonder.
But you wonder that, don't you?
I want to say one thing, by the way. But the gospel, according to Claire Hoy in the Toronto Sun, is the Liberal Party has to do nothing and just do absolutely nothing and we'll glide into office. That's wrong. Look, 2 weeks is a lifetime in politics. These guys have got 2 years, and whether you like Camp or not, Mulroney's brought in the A-team. I fought those guys all my life. They're good.
One question, where you have deliberately hidden the facts from the public. Infuriated me forever.
What facts?
You won't tell who put up the money to build the swimming pool for the Prime Minister at 24 Sussex Drive.
75 people, and I named 3 of them. And I can tell you weren't one of them.
No, I think that's awful. That should have been public from the very beginning.
I don't agree with you at all. I don't even know who they were, and I'm the guy that raised the money.
Somebody must have known.
Well, a guy like Lynch might have known.
What do you mean Lynch?
Well, he knows everything.
Charlie Lynch?
Charlie Lynch knows everything.
Charlie Lynch, are you here?
I'm here.
Charlie.
No, I've been waiting to get at this guy.
You had them. Go for them.
Well, about show business.
We're talking about the swimming pool. Come on.
No, yeah,
All right.
it doesn't bother me. It's now
And I can tell you
Maroney's
some-
swimming
And I'm
pool.
prepared to tell you publicly Lynch didn't give any money for this.
That's right.
Nor would he.
Well, Trudeau was right on that. It belongs to the people. He won't swim in it anymore. But I want to talk to you about two things. One is thinking on people who told
Thinking?
you things in confidence.
Okay, yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I
We're
don't
always
feel-
accused.
I
of
don't
it.
feel badly about it at all.
A lot of confidential stuff that you have gone public, you say,
I
but
don't,
you didn't
I don't
go
know. I don't know what I've gone confidential in that's going to break anybody's
conversations
heart.
between you and Turner.
Well, I think that
Make him
public.
look bad.
I've talked about all the campaigns I've been in. I didn't look. First of all, to make him look bad. Everything in the things in the book about John Turner, things he said. I don't badmouth John Turner.
No, but
at
he
all.
didn't say them publicly. He said them to you as
well,
his
he
mean
said them.
advisor.
He said them, didn't he? I mean, I don't think and incidentally, for
Well,
God's
that
sake,
changes
and we-
politics.
Well, hold on. We got two guys here who've made their career
I
out
know,
of that
that's
kind of
our
stuff.
job, but-
well, now it's my job too.
But when we think and make confidential things public, we find a way around so we're not blamed.
You're going to have to live with that. I mean, a lot of
I'm
liberals
prepared
aren't
to
going
live with that.
Now, what
I'll-
about the showbiz aspect? What about Keith Davey, the song and dance man, promoting his book? This is a new one, and
Well,
I've done it all my life. Webster has too. But what about the senator?
Well, I'm delighted. The book is selling well. I'm quite pleased. I'm quite pleased. And look, you write a book. You guys have written a lot of books, and you've got a lot of programs. I want the book to sell.
Yeah, but you're killing John Turner with your own laughter and song and
I
dance.
don't think
isn't
I'm
it?
killing John Turner.
Oh, dead
at
or
all.
he's
Well, you
dead
think
and-
you think John Turner's gone?
Well,
You think he's history? I don't believe that.
No, he's going to die slowly. You're going to drip him to death in the next 2 years.
But you're an old Tory anyway.
No, I'm an angry young senior.
You almost said a neuter, which I am. Put it up on me now. I am politically neutral.
Beautiful
The
cover.
perfect non-partisan. Keith, that was brighter an interview than I thought because you've been trampled all across the country, but you came through like spades. And you'll make your public announcement which way you're going to go in the review at the beginning of
He
the
made it
convention.
on your program, Jack,
No,
didn't you hear him?
I will say something. In
He
November.
revealed who he really supports on your program
You
today.
mean the
He mentioned
subconscious,
one name.
subconscious slip.
The Fotheringham candidate got mentioned in his litany of people.
Don't
Paul
spot-
Martin Jr., for God's sake.
Don't spoil the interview by mentioning Fotheringham's name.
Sorry.
My thanks to you.
Thanks, Jack.
Senator Keith Davey, the Rainmaker. We shall continue with the inimitable Charles. and
Did
the-
you know that Charles was going to horn in on my time?
We arranged it.
Your time.
Your time, it's my time. Thank you, Keith. After the break.
Every author for himself.
If you quote me, I'll kill you.
I wouldn't dream of it.
It's a funny way to run a country. And my next guest is not a figure of fun. He is a serious political observer, prominent journalist, broadcaster, political historian, plays the harmonica. Charlie, please don't play your harmonica tonight.
I only play it when asked, and I never play it when dirty remarks like that are made about
All right, it's a very funny way to run a country. It only seems 5 minutes since you had a book on the market, and here you're back with another instant book, behaving like the tiny, perfect columnist Dr. Foth. You were locked in a room for 2 weeks and turned out this book.
it. Wrong. This is my life. I lived this book. I've been 50 years in journalism. This is the distillation of 50 years of recollection with the accent on the funny, because this is a very
Well,
funny
just
country.
let me correct you just a little bit. It's 50 years of other people's recollections.
Well, I did poach some, but they're getting stingy now because everybody in our business is writing books.
Except me.
You'll be next.
Let's be serious.
Yes.
Tell me that wonderfully funny story about Trudeau in New Zealand. I don't think you reported it at the time. But
New Zealand, Trudeau goes out and he's making one of his world tours, and he goes to New Zealand, and Keith Holyoake is the prime minister. And so Keith Holyoake welcomes Trudeau and says, Mr. Trudeau, we have so much in common. Membership in the Commonwealth. We've got the native people's problem here. You've got the French Canadians. That brought the house down. Trudeau then gets up and says, well, New Zealand is famous, of course, for its black and tan football team. And there's a gasp in the crowd. He says, a black and white football team? So he says, all blacks. all-black football team.
Well, now, you paint Trudeau in another funny story there as quite a humorist. Now, I've never thought of Trudeau in his public presentations as a humorist.
No sense of humor, but wit. Very quick wit, but no way with a joke. No jokes on himself. But the funniest thing about him, he knew about this, he didn't care about it, was names. He could never get names right. He didn't remember. Did he ever get you? He got you right because he liked you. It says so in another book that we won't mention here, that he liked you, and he had you flummoxed. You always turned to putty when Trudeau was around. But in the '68 campaign, here was Trudeau causing the Trudeau media, everybody getting excited. And I say in the book there were lots of comings, not of the second kind, as women stood with their lips hanging open. And he's at a meeting in Toronto, and his big candidate, subsequent cabinet minister, is Barney Danson. You remember Barney Danson?
Remember him well, consul in Boston.
Right, okay, so Trudeau gets up first time with Danson and says at the end of his speech, and it's such a great pleasure to appear here in the company of Danny Flamson. And there's a gasp in the crowd, and he says, Blarney Flamson? Farley Flamson? Barley Fanson? And Danson is dying in the background, but Trudeau finally got it right and passed on. Those kind of things would have killed Joe Clark or most politicians. Trudeau they rolled right off. What's the name of the candidate?
Yeah. Stanfield, you say, was the best stand-up comic that you ever came across as a politician.
That's right. And we never conveyed it to the people, and if he'd done it, I think he wouldn't use it because he thought comedy and humor was too light for politics. And I kept telling him about politicians who had used it to good effect, you know. And he wouldn't do it, but he did it in closed circuit or private, and here he is. This story that you want me to tell, I think, is the one about when they took him to Hair to humanize him. They were going to broaden Stanfield. They took him to the musical comedy Hair, which was playing in Toronto. And then he goes to the Hamilton television station to do an interview like this, and Jeff Scott, our old friend, was the interviewer. And so to warm Stanfield up, they're doing sound checks and everything, and the pots are on, and the sound is going all through the station. And Jeff says, Mr. Stanfield, what did you think of Hair? Well, he said, I liked it well enough. There were certain parts of it that I would say perhaps were a bit forced. And Jeff says, what? For example, give us an example. And Stanfield said, well, he says at one point a fella comes out on the stage and he uses the four-letter expletive. And at that point, another fellow comes out on the other side, and he uses the four-letter expletive. And whereupon the first fellow uses the four-letter expletive. And this four-letter expletive is echoing through the station. And the women are running, jumping out windows and everything. And people say, who is that? It's Robert Stanfield, the leader of the Conservative Party.
I'll tell you what, people are going to steal material for speeches from this little book.
That's fine.
Jimmy Gillis, one of his colleagues, announced his intention of throwing his hat in the ring for the Tory leadership, and Stanfield said,
I hope it's not a good hat. Gillis had been criticizing wage and price controls. Which
listen, you've traveled to the Royals a lot of places, haven't you?
Yeah.
And you saw that recent debacle when Philip, to the Scottish students, describes the Chinese as, don't stay too long in Hong Kong or you'll go home with slitty eyes.
Yeah.
Which was, you know, undiplomatic in the total
Oh,
extreme.
very. It could have been disastrous. If he'd said slanty eyes,
yeah,
it
would have been all right.
Because the Chinese call us round eyes. That's their name for us. And however, the Chinese played it in typical Chinese fashion, pretended it didn't happen at all. So,
well, thank goodness for that.
What do you think the Queen said to Philip at breakfast?
Oh, my God, it'd be icy. Yeah. Wouldn't it be icy? Now, what about Philip? Did you have any problems with him at all?
Not really. I met him about 12 times, and never did he suggest that we had met before. I had one adventure with him very early on before the Queen was the Queen, and she was still Princess Elizabeth in 1950, and I went to a luncheon in London with Matthew Hulton, the great Canadian war correspondent. It was called the Thursday Club, up on the top floor of Wheeler's old oyster house in Soho on Old Compton Street, and I was taken up, and here assembled were some of the greats of the time, Philip and Barron, the photographer, Michael Parker, Philip's aide, James Robertson Justice, the movie actor, the owner of the Arsenal Football Club, the editor of the Daily Express, and I was honored to be there. And they were all wearing medals, and I said, what was this? medals given by Mr. Walsh, the owner of Wheeler's Oyster House, for the Battle of Wheeler's Oyster House. When did that take place? He said, 2 weeks ago. This is the first time the Thursday Club has met. I said, what happened? He said, well, they all agreed, they were all telling me the story. They have a cuckoo clock that comes out and goes cook 1 o'clock, time for the luncheon to start. And they challenged Barron that he couldn't take a picture of that bird. It was too quick. So he brought one of those big sway-back cameras, and he got in underneath it, and he pointed it at the clock. And as he was in there, Michael Parker passed out thunder flashes, the things they use to simulate shell bursts in war maneuvers. And Parker threw his flash under Barron and blew him up. Justice threw his under the table with the lunch and blew it up, and Philip threw his in the flue, in the fireplace, and blew it up, and the soot came out and turned them all into blacks. What they didn't know is the blast went down as well, and there were 3 other floors of Wheeler's below. Everybody having their lunch was turned into black. Now, 2 problems. Get everybody out safely and not reveal that Philip had done this. They got Philip up over the rooftops, and he went off to join his frigate, the Magpie, in Malta. And it was never disclosed that this and they fixed the whole place up. All the damages were paid, and the owner gave out medals.
Oh, great stuff. Tell me what the chilly Trudeau did to Carol Taylor. Carol Taylor's running for alderman this year.
Is she? Yeah. Yeah. Well, he wanted her as a candidate, didn't he?
No, I'm going from your book.
Carol Taylor.
Other people wanted her to be a candidate, and she went to see Trudeau. And Trudeau very acerbically said to her, don't bother.
Oh.
Now, remember that in your book?
No, is that in my book? No.
Have I quoted it?
Keith Davey's book.
I thought
Man's punchy. Hey, all right, a good story. I was crazy about Carol Taylor. I'm pleased to hear she's running. But
yeah. I do apologize.
All right.
One other story I wanted you to tell me about. Discrimination in Ottawa when the Anglo-Saxon servants moved across into West Hull.
Well, the Trudeau government, it was Jean Marchand had the idea that if they built a lot of buildings in Hull, it would make the Quebecers feel like part of the country. The Quebecers, in turn, voted for the PQ and elected a PQ member for Hull and insisted that all business in these buildings be done in French. But that's, by the way, they built all the buildings and sent all the 30,000 English-speaking civil servants moved from Ottawa to Hull, across the Ottawa River. Now, Ottawa has a sewage disposal system, and Hull doesn't at this time. So 30,000 civil servants ate their breakfast and drank their coffee in Ottawa, went across to their jobs, and then went to the loo in Hull. And the effluent went raw into the Ottawa River. So the Ottawa Transportation Commission ran an ad protesting this, anti-pollution, and said they were going to stop running buses over because this was so awful, unless the public servants took potties over with them, did their stuff and brought it back, or wore diapers, or abstained from relieving themselves, or voiding, is it?
Yeah.
Well, this was finally what was the answer? $100 million more of your money to build a sewage disposal plant for Hull.
Charlie, I got to tell you, I read the book. It didn't take me that long. I enjoyed it thoroughly, except for mixing up the Carol Taylor story.
There's a lot of sexy stuff in there.
Oh, I know there is.
Yeah, you didn't want to mention that.
We don't talk dirty
Oh, yeah, okay.
on this program.
All right, sorry.
My thanks to Charles Lynch. Funny way to run a country. It'll sell better than Fotheringham's sermon on Mount Washington.
Want to bet? I hope.
No. Won't bet, but I'll give you my best wishes.
Thank you.
After the break. So you think you got troubles. I had a really touching story here today where a 60-year-old truck driver was released from his job, his only trade. And do you know what his offense was? He could not read street signs quickly enough to maneuver his truck and make his deliveries. Now, he couldn't read street signs quickly enough because he was one of the 250,000 people of all ages in British Columbia, about 1 in 5, who can be described in the broad range of being functionally illiterate. That means maybe they can't sign their name properly, they can't write a check, they can't fill in an application for a job, and while they can watch the television and listen to the radio and grasp what's in the newspaper, they don't get the full flavor of any decent education. So here I am at Invergarry Learning Centre in Surrey. And I'm going to try and help them to find more people who can't read the ads to come and upgrade their skills, whatever their age, and make life better for them, even if it doesn't make them into a university professor or something high, mighty, and terribly literate. Well, here I am in one of the working classrooms in the Invergarry Learning Centre, and here is Lee Weinstein, who is the head teacher.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, you give me the extent of the crisis there is in people who can't cope with the English writing and reading.
Well, it's a terrible dilemma for them, because they can't admit to their friends and to their families sometimes that they have difficulty reading. And so it becomes a hidden problem, and they can't admit it on the job because they're afraid of being fired, and they're ashamed and embarrassed, and they feel stupid.
Now, you're a teacher. Does it shock you? How many people are coming to this centre now?
Well, the center handles about 400 people a week.
How many could it handle if people knew about the course?
I guess it could handle another 100, 150 maybe.
Are these all people who kind of just sat in keeping the seats warm until they left in grade 5, 6, 7, or 8?
Oh, there are a lot of reasons. There are a lot of reasons why people can't read. Sometimes they didn't learn how to read. Sometimes they had to get a job.
How long does it take you to take someone with a very elementary education to be able to read and write?
Well, what we can do is we can help people learn how to read fairly quickly by reading their own words that we write down, they dictate to us. But that doesn't make them necessarily functionally literate, but a lot of work.
So after a couple of months here, attending on a daily basis?
Attending on a daily basis or 2 or 3 times a week.
They could become quite functional.
Well, they can improve themselves to the point they realize that it's really possible for them to learn how to read.
Now, I'm going to talk to some of the people here. Now, here's a young chap here. And not going to be too nosy. What's your first name?
Brian,
Brian. How old are you, Brian?
23.
23. Now, what grade did you go to in school?
I was in like a special class, 8, 9, and 10, but I never really, they just sort of put me through. I never really learned how to read proper.
Now, what work are you doing just now? Can I take a little book here? I know you won't mind if I do this. Oops, here. Now, you can read that quite well now, though, can't you? Yeah, read me a piece.
So the old man could get free. He kept on staring at Dave, trying to figure out where he had seen him before.
Not bad at all. Well, you weren't as good as that when you came to the Invergarry Learning Centre, were you?
Nope.
Now, so are you working just now?
Not really, no, not at the moment.
And what are you going to try and do? Upgrade yourself to a real grade 10 or 12?
To 12, I'm hoping.
And then what?
Then I want to get an apprenticeship in something. And
Good. That's excellent. Well, you're coming along, right?
yep.
But if I had to give you the newspaper, you could read that headline for me, couldn't you?
Yeah, hunger free
Hunger-free, you're almost there.
programs help
Women lose 76
women.
pounds. Best of luck. Keep at it. Now, a lady here had a little epistle written out for me, and she insists that she reads it to me. So, your name?
My name is Carrie G. Hutton.
Now, Carrie, read your little epistle to me.
Yeah. I was born in Victoria in 1917. I was the youngest children of 7 children. I did not have very much skill in school. I left school when I was 17. 13, excuse me, Jack. I went to work at the Victoria General Hospital washing baby bottles and ate and slept in the hospital.
Now, is this a big improvement for you to be able to write this and read it back to me?
Yes, Jack, it's since I've come here, I've only been here since the 9th of September. And I had a teacher before, but she didn't give me the education that this one's given me.
When you were at school, could you read then?
No, I couldn't, Jack.
Nobody ever taught you to read?
I went out into the world at this age.
13?
13 years of age, and I left I left it. I left here. This is my last work
In June.
in June at the Surrey Hospital.
Who knows, if you keep up composing with this, you may turn out to be Agatha Christie and write a bestseller.
Oh, I wished I could, Jack. And you know, I'm doing this for my husband because on account he's blind. And he says, send best of love to you.
Oh, good. So you can read to him.
Now I can read. I take these home and I can read to him, and he just goes, oh, he says, honey, he says, I'm so glad, because he's blind, you see.
Oh, that's wonderful. Give him my very
And
best.
do you know how old I am, Jack?
Yes, I do. You were born in 1917. You're a year older than me.
Am I, Jack? Oh, my goodness.
So don't mention the exact
And
number.
I don't look it, do I?
Not a day. Not a day beyond 25.
Thank you ever so much,
Thanks
Jack.
very much. Now,
Jack, are you getting your pension too?
I'm drawing the pension.
You should send it back to the government.
Oh, away with you. I paid for the pension. Now, there's a young man here called Pierre. And Pierre has got a very dramatic story. How many kids you got, Pierre?
4.
4. Can you read storybooks to children?
There's a couple I can read, but not too many, no.
Yeah, they're really simple books. Now, I think I want to show, and you're going to help me. I want you to try and read me this out of the local paper. Try and read me the first couple of lines of that.
I can't really read most. I can read a couple of words.
Can you read the first word?
No.
Like. L-I-K-E.
And next door.
Uh-huh.
And that one I can't read.
That's a tricky one. N-E-I-G-H. Neighbor.
Neighbor.
Like a next door neighbor.
Uh-huh.
So here we are, and it's very, nice of you, very considerate of you to tell me. How old are you?
I'm 28.
28. Where did you go to school?
I went to school in Manitoba.
Manitoba.
And I went to a couple of schools out here, and I wasn't really getting anywhere with them. And I just finally quit because it wasn't all that good for me.
Totally frustrated.
Yes.
So what education did they say you had when you left school in Manitoba?
When I left Manitoba?
Yeah. 7?
About 7, yeah.
Well, did you have any particular learning disability that you were aware of?
Yeah, I had some, yeah.
Yeah.
It was bad of hearing and classrooms overpacked.
That's
too
right.
much.
And you were put at the back of the classroom.
Yeah,
The teachers would tend just to kind of write you off.
yeah.
Well, that doesn't give one any enthusiasm. Now, how long have you been coming to the Learning Centre?
About a year. Sorry, about a month.
About a month.
Yeah.
This writing in front here is done by your teacher, right?
Yes.
And the teacher's name is?
Mark McHugh.
Mark. Your technique is he dictates the story to you, you write it, and he reads it.
Correct, yes.
Can you read this yet for me, Pierre?
Some of it, yeah.
Try a wee bit.
The last job I had was for Commonwealth. I worked on the SkyTrain construction site. I worked there for about a year.
Now, being able to read that, having dictated it to your teacher, is a big step forward.
Yeah, it is, because now I can go home and go over it and start to know all the words.
Gosh, I respect you. Best of luck, Pierre. Okay. How long will Pierre come here?
That's entirely up to Pierre. When he feels he's ready to move on, he will move on. And
Good, and there's no charge here on this program?
no, it's free of charge.
Great stuff. Oh, here's a lady here. What are you doing this morning, my dear?
Yes, I'm just trying to learn to put words into a sentence in a little better.
Composition?
Yes.
Like that short sentence there?
Yes, right.
What's it say?
It says George opened a drawer, and the drawer was in the kitchen.
Not bad, not bad. It's a number of years since you were at school, isn't it?
Yes, it
What
is.
grade did you leave at school from?
At grade 4.
Grade 4? My goodness, you were only about 9 or 10 or maybe 11.
I was 11.
Why did you leave then?
Well, I was big for my age, and I was very shy, and I felt very uncomfortable.
And you were allowed just to walk out of school. Did you go to work?
Yeah, I went to work right after.
And
I
so-
was 12 when I was working.
In the years between, though, you've managed all right, have you? Signing
yes.
checks and
Oh,
writing
yes.
letters up to a point?
Yes.
And what are you trying to get? What standard are you trying to get up to now?
Well, I'd like to improve it actually for my own benefits, to be able to express myself better in writing and speaking.
Good for you. Best of luck. Thanks very much. A little more about the centre, the Invergarry Learning Centre, helping people to become more fully functional literate after the break. Now, here's a little class here in the Invergarry Learning Centre, and I'm going to ask Gary Farnes, the teacher, precisely what the problems are or what he's doing with this group of young people.
Okay, what we're doing is we're looking at each other's writing. Each member of the group does a certain amount of writing each day, and we examine it as a group.
For grammatical correction, etc.?
Yes, that usually comes later.
That comes later.
First off, we're more concerned with getting the writing out, like getting a lot of words on paper.
All right, now I'm going to this young lady here, whose name is?
Sandra.
Sandra, why are you here?
To learn to read and write better, and so I can go on and teach my children.
Oh, you have children?
Yes.
And at the moment you're a little bit handicapped in teaching them to read, helping them with the schoolwork.
I can't read out loud.
You can't read out loud?
No.
What grade did you get to in school?
10.
Grade 10. Well, technically speaking, you should be fully literate, shouldn't
Yes, I should, but I never was.
You never were. Okay, well, I'm going to give you a little test. You just said you can't read out loud. I want you to take that composition of yours and read out loud.
This isn't mine, but
Oh, that's more difficult.
yeah. There was a man sitting behind a desk, glazing, glasses up, resting upon his nose, who was looking up above the pile of paper, trying to remember whereabouts of the account.
Trying to remember the whereabouts of the account. That's not bad at all. Can you read the paper on a daily basis, a newspaper? Or do you not read the paper?
I do read the paper, try to.
You do. Good for you. Let's go right round the class. Here's a young lady who came from Yugoslavia when she was 13 and went straight into school here, correct?
That's right.
And your name, ma'am?
Lillian Field.
And now you've got a... What's your problem, really? Because your spoken English is just perfect.
Well, I guess the reason I decided to come into the class is because I came to a level where if I wanted to do something better, I wasn't qualified. My spelling is really bad. And when it came down to putting things on paper, it's like I got lost. Even though I can speak well.
You can't put it down on paper.
That's it.
And that's the object of your exercise here.
That's right.
How many children?
I only have one.
One child. Has this been a big help?
Yes. Yeah.
And
I have tried before, and this is the first time that I feel comfortable in it.
Now, this gentleman here, English is not your first language.
No, it's not.
What is your first language?
Spanish.
Spanish.
Sí.
Why do Spaniards always say Spanish?
Because we pronounce the S a lot.
Yeah. Muchas gracias.
De nada.
Now, so you're fluent in the spoken English?
Yes.
What's the problem with your writing?
Well, it's pretty much the same as her. I tried many different courses, but I couldn't learn how to write or read. I got jobs, and I couldn't progress in my job because when it came to writing, they had to let me go.
What kind of little thing in the job would cause you to be let go?
Well, when I have to write forms or I have to receive orders and read them, I will make mistakes, and, that stops me from progressing.
Are you working now?
No, I'm not, but I'm looking for a part-time job.
Part-time job, and you're going to be able to take down the orders and put the phone numbers down properly and all the rest of it?
Now, yes, because this program has helped me a lot to break the ice,
How old are you?
I'm 21.
What do I say in Spanish? Hasta la vista?
Sí.
Spanish, hasta la vista. De nada. Muchas gracias. Now, young lady.
Yes.
Tell me your innermost secrets and fears about not being fully functionally literate.
Don't really have any.
Do you not? What are you doing here?
Changing this, what is written here into a shorter way of
Oh, you're
story.
editing it. Okay, First sentence, please.
There was a man sitting behind a desk. His glasses sat upon his nose as he looked up upon the pile of paper to take
A minute.
trying to remember where that
Well, that account
account was.
Now, how long have you been coming here?
About a month.
How long will you have to come before you're happy with your English composition and your reading?
Quite a while.
Quite a while. How old are you?
15.
Just 15? So you were in grade what? 10?
No, I go to a team parenting class.
Uh-huh. A team parenting class?
Yes.
What's that?
It's a school where I take my daughter to school with me.
Oh, I see. And you're catching up now?
Yes.
So you didn't drop out, you're catching up?
Sort of.
Oh, good. Best of luck. Well, now, we'll speak to the final pupil at this table. Now, you're a little older than the other girls, if I say so. You're a single mother.
Yes, I am.
And why have you come here? You've been working for, what, 20 years,
20
maybe?
years. I work as a bookkeeper in various offices in Vancouver area. And then I went to Nova Scotia and lived there 4 years, and I didn't like it, so I came back. And now it's all computer, and they want computer experience. Well, in order to get computer experience, you've got to know how to read and write.
But you could read and write to a
I
point,
can read
surely.
anything, but it's a matter of writing and putting things down. I'm terrible at spelling. I can read any kind of books.
So what you really need is upgrading. Maybe you should be at Kwantlen College or something. Should you?
Yes.
And will you do that once you catch up a little bit here, or would you rather stay here and do it?
I would like to stay here because I like it here very much, but I'm going to have to go to Kwantlen College.
Now, what's the present stage of your progress? I mean, nobody could call you illiterate, could they?
Better ask the teacher that.
How's it coming anyway?
Good. I'm really enjoying it.
You're not prepared to give me a test of any kind? Can I give you a spelling test?
No.
Can I?
No.
One simple
Don't
one?
do that.
Don't do that. Anyway, I wish you all the very best.
Okay, thank you.
Where's Lee Weinstein? Lee, can you handle more people?
Yeah.
I mean, not everyone here is what you would say a classic illiterate.
Well, no, but illiteracy simply means people have trouble with something in their daily life.
And means that they can't cope with the ordinary kind of sophistication of society and maintaining a job, reading the street signs and all the rest of it.
Anything to do with reading and writing.
Okay, what's the number here?
The number is 584-5424.
And do these classes carry on all through the winter?
Yeah, they're morning, afternoon, and evening classes.
And do we have to book in?
Call up, make an appointment to come in, we'll assess you, and
only
try to
from
help
Surrey?
you. We do take people from outside Surrey, but people in Surrey have first dibs.
They have priority. And there are no fees except for the more advanced ones where you might be paying for a computer recognition course.
All the programs except ours have fees in this facility, but the fees are negotiable, and in certain situations we can waive the fees.
Well, thanks very much, Lee, and the very best of luck. Count your blessings. And if you're at the back of the classroom and you can't really read or write, don't hesitate to go to a place like Invergarry Learning Centre, fess up, and mix with these delightful people and become as fluent as Churchill. And like the little essay that was read to me, I am sitting behind my desk, my glasses in my nose, looking at my papers. I'm going to put up these phone numbers again, and we've got time for one segment of Free for All after the break. Seven. Oh. My thanks to Lee Weinstein of the Invergarry Learning Centre and to the Surrey School Board. There's a worthwhile job, I'll tell you, that's been done out there. And I'll put the phone numbers up before the end of the program. There it is there. 5940664 is the 24-hour number. And then Invergarry Learning Centre is 584-5424. Telephone calls. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Mr. Webster.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I teach creative writing in an elementary school in Vancouver, and I have discovered that the children who read write best. And for parents who are concerned with their children's literacy, one thing that works very well with young children is to write questionnaires for them so that they are able to write answers of yes or no, but during the course of that, they also learn how to read.
Thank you, ma'am. A very good tip. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Jack.
Yes?
I would like to congratulate you for your performance in Toronto on that we all watched here the other night. Mm-hmm. I was a bit embarrassed for Dave Barrett.
Oh, no.
He got a lot of oohs instead of a lot of ha-has.
It was very difficult. I don't mind telling you, I'm not normally jumpy at a speech, and First time in 10,000 years I've actually had typed notes in front of me. But on a live television broadcast, not knowing what was going to happen with the other speakers, I played it safe.
Well, it was good, but I'll tell you, Jack, John Chrétien, I had tears in my eyes from laughing. He could make it on in show business.
I'll tell you something you wouldn't expect to hear from me. I thought the grace shown by Mulroney was magnificent. And I can't think of another country where the Prime Minister would sit there and be so savaged by his own people and other people and walk away laughing and enjoying it.
Did you have a wee drinky of scotch while you were there?
I did not, sir.
Uh-oh. Okay, Jack, thank you.
That fooled him, didn't it? Go ahead, please.
Jack, who's going to be out of a cabinet post next week?
Who's going to be out of a cabinet post? Mr. Van der Zam.
Oh, obviously.
He's not going to be finance minister.
That's right. Who's going to take that one?
No idea. We'll get the cabinet about the end of next week, and I'll be fascinated to see who is in it and who is not in it. He's going to have a tough time, I'll tell you, picking a cabinet. I wonder why that fellow phoned. Was I supposed to say something nasty? Not my style. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Jack.
Yes.
Yeah, listen, I just was wondering what your thoughts were on having this, on Mr. Laurier having this convicted child molester.
Well, I'll tell you right now, and very simply,
TV where the guy was whining.
No
really
comment and not for
good human
publication.
being.
I would not put such a person on the air. And that's just blanket. No, 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 no. Go ahead, please.
Hello.
Yep.
Jack. Good evening, Jack.
Good evening.
Isn't it pitiful watching our schooling illiterates, young kids, 20, 23 years of age? My gosh, who do you blame them for? when I went to school, and I'm a little younger than you are. You had to bloody learn. I think it's the fault of our system of education. The teachers should have more emphasis on teaching than spending the time.
Now look, I went into a particularly brutal school system. If you were bright, you survived. If you were not bright, you were shuffled to the back of the class and you didn't survive. I don't think my system, much as I prate about it, was half as good as today's system. I really don't, because I can think of I had 55 kids in my class at one time in Battlefield Elementary School, and I'll bet you not 25 of them could read and write properly. No, I think it's something where parents, television is damnable, of course, nobody reads anymore, and that was what was the saving grace of my generation. We read a lot.
Exactly. And we don't put any emphasis to put that children do read. I have 5 children, and there are in 4 of them at university, and my God, I haven't got a university education, and what they teach them in there.
I know, you made your point. Go on forever. You must tell me if I'm too crisp with people. Go ahead from Gabriola Island.
Oh, hello, Mr. Webster?
Yes, sir.
I found your program on illiteracy most interesting. I have worked with many young people myself over the last few years who couldn't cope with their jobs because they didn't have the skills, reading, writing, and incidentally also not able to do very simple arithmetic either. Mm-hmm. These are people with grade 10 and 11, 12. I think perhaps that Mr. Van der Zam is right, that we do need a Royal Commission on Education, and we need therefore to, and in it, hopefully, to study the role of the teaching profession.
Very good point, sir, but I'm not inclined to think we need a Royal Commission. I think we've got sufficiently skilled people in high places where they know the defects, they know the shortages, we know the teaching techniques. We must put our teachers back into a slightly different status. But let's not wait 5 years for a Royal Commission before we do anything to plug the financial or other gaps in our school system. And I'll be back after the break.
I resent his remarks in the House talking about quiet down, baby. I'm not his baby, and I'm nobody's baby, and I'd like him to withdraw those remarks.
Not that I care, but...
I will show answers.
Tell all the calls, thank you and good night. We must have more free-for-all, Steve. Hey? Busy day tomorrow. I'm going to go bargain hunting at the Expo auction. I've got Sheila Copps on. Yeah. And I've got a couple of experts from the United Nations High Commission on Refugees to talk about the problems like the Tamils and the lifeboats. And I'll be here live, what do you know, at 5 p.m. precisely. Stay tuned for the news.